my best to spread out the microphone. Alderman, I'm going to do my best to look your direction and just raise your hand or nod or indicate something. Raise your hand. I'll put you in the queue, and the queue is this pen and this piece of paper. So I'll do my best, and I'll do my best to call forward and certainly abide by Robert's Rules of Order in that respect. Next on the agenda, we have the Finance Committee report from
Arlene Cunningham to the podium, please. White version phone.
We have a Finance Committee report.
Sorry. No report today, Mayor. Our next meeting is on, wait a minute. March 27th at 7:30.
Thank you, Chairman Cunningham. After that, General Committee Chairman's present.
Thank you, Mayor. General Committee met earlier this evening. We had 3 items on the agenda. Ordinance 2018-14 will be before us tonight. We recommended that unanimously, as did recommendation for Resolution 2018-17, Resolution 2018-20, having to deal with changing the job classification list and accepting the final development plan for Durham Farm. Both of those items will be before us on our next agenda.
Chairman Sprouse, thank you. Public Safety Committee Chairman Brown.
Mayor, Vice Chairman Petrelli has our report.
Vice Chairman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Public Safety Committee met tonight. Ordinance 2018-11, an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code Title 17, Chapter 2, regarding the burning of construction debris. We basically put that on hold for 1 month. Hendersonville Fire Chief Bush is going to be reviewing the environmental concerns regarding burning trees. Anyway, that'll be back next month. Ordinance 2018-13, an ordinance amending Budget Ordinance 2017-23 by appropriating general funds in the amount of $129,188.04 to the fire department due to unexpected retirements. That passed on the agenda. We'll be going to finance. Ordinance number 2018-15, an ordinance amending Budget Ordinance 2017-23 by appropriating general funds in the amount of $80,000 to purchase automatic license plate recognition cameras. That was unanimously approved. An ordinance amending Hendersonville Municipal Code Title 15, Chapter 1 regarding miscellaneous offenses. That was approved. Resolution 2018-18, a resolution to declare equipment owned by the city to be surplus property and directing disposal of same is approved. A resolution instructing the mayor and city staff to move forward with the construction of a barn for the city patrol horses was approved. We had a discussion on safer grants. Chief Bush and his crew will be working on those. We had a discussion on the possible purchase of a seismograph. That failed. We deferred a discussion on safety on Rockland Road. And we received an update from Commander Harrismeyer regarding the ECC budget. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Petrelli. Next, we have Capital Projects Committee from Chairman Skidmore.
With Public Works, but
Public Works Committee.
yeah, that capital project will be my friend, Pat Campbell. Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of comments to make. Our scheduled meeting, we're having a special call meeting on March 20th at City Hall, dealing strictly with the garbage contract with the City of Hendersonville. We will be going over the contract along with recycling in Hendersonville. It's something that the committee and the board of Mayor and Alderman were all, and I know our constituency all over Hendersonville is very excited about it. So we're looking forward to an investment in the future with those two projects. And then on a personal note, I do want to say I want to thank this board, every one of you personally, and Mayor and John. I can't thank you enough. for the emails and the phone calls and everything from my mom, who was in the hospital. That's why I didn't make the last meeting, because we were in there, and she had heart problems. And so I want to thank you all. I want to thank some of my friends out there that came up to me tonight, and Mama's doing real well. So we'll just, if you would please just keep our whole family in your prayers, and I'll keep you in mind. And I just want to thank you very much for everything. And other than that, Mayor, that is all we have in our public works.
Chairman Scribble, what time is that public works?
Oh, yes, sir, I'm sorry. It's at 6:30 on Tuesday, March 20th.
I appreciate that. Next, we have Capital Projects Committee, Chairman Campbell.
Mr. Chairman, yes, our next meeting will be March 20th at 5:30 City Hall. We'll be talking about the Hawkins property appraisal and the future usage of that property, and also the update on Fire Hall number 2, the Arrowhead Park update, Sanitary Walking Trail update, Walking Ferry Road realignment update, and senior citizens upgrades update as well. So it starts at 5:30, following that will be the public works meeting. Thank you.
Chairman Campbell, thank you. Planning Commission, Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor.
We're rocking down here.
So the Planning Commission met on March 6th. The following site plans are approved: Imperial Point Properties and Mallard Bay Assisted Living. Approved preliminary plats are the Michael Archbold subdivision Phase 2 in Somersville North. Approved final plans, Winbrook Phase 6. Approved final development plans, Durham Farms Phase 4. Approved final development plan, use amendments, Indian Lake Village Phase 4. And approved site plans is the Cruising Sports, NTG North Edition, and the Hendersonville Police Horse Park. Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate that, Alderman Petrelli. Next, we have Hendersonville Horizons, Gerald Woodcock. Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you, Mayor. No report, but I would like to remind you that our next meeting is during spring break. I know several members of the board mentioned they will be out of town.
Anybody want to make a comment about that? The next meeting is during spring break. Your availability to me?
I will be gone.
I'd like to make a motion. There's a number of us going to be gone.
We have a motion, a second, to cancel our next meeting. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we have a pretty hefty schedule on finance, so maybe I can make the finance meeting the second Tuesday in April instead. Because we have some things that we have to take care of in finance, or maybe I could do a special call.
Anybody else want to, any other discussion? All those in favor of canceling our next meeting, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously. Alderman Woodcock, you still report? No report. Okay, appreciate that. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. Can y'all hear me out there?
That may not be on.
Yeah, I turned it off. Did you? He turned it off. Can you hear me?
The switch that says on.
Oh. Yeah. Oh. Oh, first round, can you hear me? I got you. Thank you. What a crowd. I tell you what. They got to take a deep breath and relax. So we're going to be here a while. But seriously, thank you for coming out tonight. It's great to see you. Mr. Chairman, I had 2 comments that I wanted to address, but I'll reserve one of them till later. But after hearing some remarks about some checks involving the city and the Bailey Farm Committee, I'm concerned, I'm confused. So in order for me and this board to set the record straight, I move to suspend the rules and ask Mr. Verbal to come to the podium. I so move.
A motion to suspend the rules to have Ken Verbal speak. Why don't we do that? Hold on. And Alderman Waters, we've got a motion and a second to suspend the rules at this point.
I have a second?
You have a second?
Okay. I think it's important that the board, I think it's important that the board hears about these things that's been brought up tonight. Mr. Verbal?
Hold on. Any discussion on this?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Woodcock.
I'm more than happy to hear him speak, but I would rather follow the agenda when that item comes up, and then I'll let him speak.
Okay.
It's pertinent to the
Anybody else want to discuss this? All those in favor of allowing Tim Brewer to speak at this time, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. We're going to call the roll. Please answer aye if you're in support of this. If you get called your name, please answer your name. Or not.
Brown. Campbell. Cunningham. No. Frost.
No.
Edward. No. Gillig.
Yes.
Petrelli. Yes. Skidmore.
Yes.
Sprouse.
No.
Stanford.
Yes.
Waters.
Yes.
Woodcock.
No.
Clary.
Yes. That passes 8-5. Ken.
Thank you, board.
Oh yeah, you don't have to. Sorry about that. And if you just want to stand there, that's fine too. That's cool. You can need that.
Well, let me...
Jim, we'll come back to it. We'll go with Ken right now. We'll come back.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
Since I got the floor. First, I want to know, Mr. Burwell, what is your position with the Bailey Farm?
I'm chairman of the board.
There's been comments made about some checks issued by this administration to or on behalf of the Bailey Farm project. I have to admit, since this was brought to my attention, I'm concerned, I'm confused, and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot. But could you give this board not only the timeline, but the reason that I have these copies of these checks, so that the board and myself will understand what's going on? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Alderman, for letting me speak, and I appreciate all you people being here tonight as well. This is really for clarification. I'm going to give you a timeline of how things progressed from September 2017. Mike Isaacson met with Steve Brown, Andy Gilly, and Scott Sprouse. Let them know that the price of the lower half of the land would be $3 million. That's for the 35 acres. And that they would entertain the city to purchase it. And then on October the 17th, the city workshop to discuss that potential purchase by the city of the lower 35 acres for $3 million was held. On October the 8th, Andy Gilly, Steve Brown met with Mayor Chip Moore and Keith Free. Chip Moore began to look for someone to appraise the property on behalf of the city. On October the 23rd, we had our first community meeting at Indian Lake Peninsula Church, heavily attended by the community, and several citizens asked to see if we could be more involved. On October the 24th, they met with Steve Brown and Andy Gilly and the mayor, and the mayor stated on October the 24th that Chip had ordered, Chip Moore had ordered the appraisal to be done by Steve Gregory for $1,500. Now, Steve Gregory works for the Hammonds Group, and it should be done prior, either before or by December the 15th. On October the 24th, the Finance Committee passed 3-0 recommendation of the 1% of the city budget to go towards land acquisition. On October the 25th, the mayor sent a letter to the Isaacsons asking for more time because the original offer from the Isaacsons were 30 days. On November the 1st, the Isaacsons sent a letter to the city agreeing to give December 31, 2017 to make that decision as a drop-dead date. On November the 6th, there was a meeting, the first meeting of interested citizens at City Hall to form a steering committee to pursue the formation of a formal committee that became the Friends of Indian Lake Peninsula Committee. Now listen to this one. On November the 14th was the first meeting of what is now called the Friends of Indian Lake Peninsula Board of Directors. We were not even in existence when any of this took place, as far as the appraisal was concerned. So the appraisal really was for the city to make its decision. It was doing due diligence for it to make its decision on the Isaacson's original offer to the city to buy the lower 35 acres for $3 million. Now we have the two checks. When we started on November the 14th, Mayor Clary said to us that through his discretionary funds, that he was willing, the city, to help us get a start on the initial sending out of our mailer and the postage for the mailer. The mailer printing was $1,432, and the postage was $618.79. And so the mayor said at that time he would be willing to offer up to $5,000 with his funds, but that was the limit. But what had transpired is that money was spent with ASAP Printing, which is a printing company that normally does business with the city. It was for $1,432 for the printing. And then we did all of the other work as far as putting that all together to send out to the residents of Indian Lake Peninsula to try to get ourselves started. And the mayor was gracious to offer that. We only ended up using his money for a very short period of time. And that $2,050.79, I went the other day when we started collecting our own money. I went to Ron Minix's office and I tendered $2,050.79 to return to the city the money that the mayor had graciously offered to us to get us started, and we paid the city back with our own money. And so I have a receipt right here from Ron Minix's office. And that is what really happened with regard to those two things. The appraisal, we had nothing to do with it. We weren't even informed when that appraisal was done. And then we did use the city's money for a very short period of time, but we did pay it back. And we thank you, Mayor, for your graciousness.
Do we have any other questions, Mr. Burke? Alderman Spouse. And stick right here.
Turn off the microphone. There we go.
Thank you for the explanation, Mr. Burble. I appreciate that. You're in a situation where you are not expected to know city policy, expenditures, and things like that. The question I have for the city attorney or anybody in staff, is it appropriate for the city to do a mailer for a private group? Was that expenditure, even though it was paid back?
We didn't quite hear your mailer for what?
The mailer that was done for the meeting, the cost of the postage and the printing, even though the money may have been paid back, was that an appropriate expenditure for the city to do? Was that in accordance with policy?
Who yes?
Either the city attorney or anyone in staff that he would recommend.
It's probably a finance director. Ron or Dana? Ron? Did you hear the question, Ron? Go ahead. Did you hear the question?
I did.
Okay, go ahead.
The request to pay those bills was authorized by the mayor. So the finance director issued the checks to pay. And it came out of the city's budget.
Was it appropriate?
The mayor has a budget.
Mark, you want to, Alderman Skipper, you want to ask something? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. on something like that, I think Mr. Minix has answered the appropriate questions that are appropriate person, but to us, is the best of his knowledge, and I appreciate that. But I think that kind of question really is a legal question that really needs to be asked. And I hate to put you on the spot, John, but that would have to be a question that the city attorney, that's a policy issue.
The question becomes, was that for a public purpose? If it was for a legitimate public purpose, it's appropriate. Was it a public purpose? It's a judgment call.
Thank you. At that point, we had the possibility, the city had the possibility of having some land donated to us. And I felt like it was in the city's best interest to spend up to $2,000 with the possibility of getting a piece of land for $2 million. I felt like that was for the purpose there. Alderman Waters, back to you.
Thank you, Mayor. The only question I want to get resolved, because I'm really confused, is the two checks outstanding, not including the appraisal. I understand that, but the other two, I understand from Mr. Kennedy, it's been paid back to the city. Is that right? That's correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, I have no other questions. Thank you.
Next we have reading of resolution 2018-11. This is a resolution authorizing the formation of a sports authority and approving the form of the corporate charter to use to organize such sports authority. I so move. Second. The motion is second. Second was from Alderman Woodcock. Yes. I would help move us along a little bit here. This is my motion. In the interest of moving things a little bit quicker, I never promised that we would have a feasibility study that was open and inclusive. I don't know what an open or inclusive feasibility study is. That doesn't make sense to me. I never made that promise. What I did promise is that when I have a feasibility study for a completed feasibility study for a hockey facility, I am going to make that available to anybody and everybody. That was the promise that I made. I don't know who said that it would be an open, inclusive process. That must have been somebody else's words. But at this, I wish it were done, but at this point, my understanding is not done because we don't have legitimate numbers that are based on Hendersonville.
Point of personal
and, excuse me, I have four. And so and so we don't have that right now. And we hopefully we will have it soon. But to me, a feasibility study doesn't help if it doesn't have those numbers. That's what a feasibility study to me is. It's a lot of math. And so we look forward to getting that back. Again, I say I wish it were finished. But let's suppose that feasibility study comes back and it says we should build an ice facility. Let's suppose that. And let me take you back about 20 years ago. The Nashville Sounds were looking for a new place to create their stadium and to have their headquarters. And there are a bunch of folks in Hendersonville and Gallatin throughout the county that entertained that and tried to lure them. And one of the first things that was said was, we need to set up a sports authority. About that same time, the Tennessee Titans were looking for a facility. They were looking for their practice facility. They were looking for a headquarters. And Mayor Hank Thompson started talking to them, and they moved that along. But one of the comments was, we need a sports authority. So let's suppose this feasibility study comes back and says that it's not smart, it's not feasible to build a hockey facility. We still need a sports authority. In fact, we needed it for about 20 years. It's obvious this is something that should have been done long ago. I think it's absolutely worth pointing out that in the course of the past 20 years, we certainly should have had that. And I think we can honestly say that if we don't pass this tonight or we delay it, Hendersonville is not going to have a hockey facility in the foreseeable future. In fact, what has happened for the past several years, let's say 22 years, nothing is likely to keep happening. I want to pass out something to you. Here is a list of people who have helped in this process. Let's go. Good. And that was something that was asked of me. It's been asked of me at times, and I'm happy to provide that. This is a list of people who have volunteered their time and expertise and have never charged the city, never charged anybody for that expertise and for that time. And I very much appreciate people who do something like that and that want to get involved, volunteer for the city, and volunteer for the community. I very much appreciate that. I hope that it helps out a little bit. I'm going to pass out something else as well. This is also something that has been talked a little bit, and I think will help answer some questions. Actually, let me have one of those back. And it's actually in your packets. But I think it's important because I highlighted a couple of things there. And as you get it, if you can look, or if you want to look at your packet on page 29, and as you're getting these, feel free to look at items 5, 7, 14, because there's a very important word in those three items there. And the word is operate. I know there's been some questions from folks. What's the difference between Sports Authority and Industrial Development Board? It's really this word, operate. You see that word in items 5 and number 7 and number 14. Now I'm going to pass out one more thing to you. And what you're looking at there right now is Tennessee Code annotated on what the powers and authority of sports authorities are. So what I'm going to do now is the powers and authority of industrial development boards. Again, what I handed you just a second ago was in your packet about sports authority. You notice that the word operates is in there. What you're going to see right now in the authority and the powers of the industrial development board, you're going to see this comment. This is on page 3, in quotes. Does not have the power to operate any project. That's a big difference when you're talking about sports authorities and industrial development boards. That's why we need sports authorities.
Excuse me, Mayor, you're going to have to slow down a little bit. More pages
Sorry.
are marked.
Okay.
Nothing is earmarked.
Okay, the first one I mentioned, from the sports authority, it's either on page 29 in your packet or it's page 3 in what I just handed out. Items 5, 7, and 14. And then in the middle of page 3 on the Industrial Development Board Authority, does not have the power to operate any project. Again, the key word there is operate. You see operate several times in the powers of a sports authority, and then expressly forbids it in the powers of an Industrial Development Board. Now, talking about the feasibility study and talking about a facility and a lot of things we're talking about, I will absolutely agree that we're talking about some things that are covered before the boards. It's information I was asked to provide. I'm happy to provide that. And honestly, the list of potential board members that we have on this agenda is the cart before the horse. And the conversation a couple weeks ago about how we set up a board is the cart before the horse. The discussions about debts and assets and locations and investors, that's cart before the horse. What we have in front of us, and I hope what you can see here, is that we have something that we really need to vote based on the merits. And I apologize for getting you some information that's cart before the horse. And I also apologize that if you feel like I presented this poorly, or for some other reason that you feel like I did a poor job of this, I will admit guilt right now. Absolutely. And if you don't like hockey, okay, that's okay. But I need you to vote on the merits of this. It's very important here that if we assume we're voting on the merits of this, every one of us, I feel like we do that on every vote, that we're going to assume that the other person is voting on the merits of this. And if we're doing that here, if you vote against this or delay this, I'm going to assume that you did it because you don't want a hockey facility in Hendersonville, if you vote against this. And by the same merits, again, voting on the merits, if you believe that we should have a hockey facility, vote for this, on its merits. Make your decision on the merits, please. Should we have a sports authority? Yes. Should we have a hockey facility? Yes. And if you're voting on the merits, you should vote yes on this. Alderman Foster.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad you.
I find no statement there. Alderman Foster.
Until the ruling on points of personal privilege, I won't vote.
The ruling is that it's not withstanding. So go ahead. You have the floor now.
I'm glad you brought that up because I want to direct this to you since you and I had a conversation 2 weeks ago. I asked you 2 weeks ago if you had a contract on the Sports Authority feasibility study. Remember that?
I believe so.
What's confusing to me now is you said just a minute ago, if this feasibility study comes back, shows it, so then you've authorized feasibility study.
No, I haven't.
You just said it's one comes back.
I didn't authorize feasibility studies. Several people, and I never signed a contract. Several people, several organizations contributed to it.
You never signed a contract?
I never signed a contract.
What's that?
I don't know. I can't see it.
Los Associates, you signed this contract on the 9th day of October 2017
That's a contract you said.
for a total of $30,000. There was 2 invoices on 9/4/17 and 10/2/17.
Is this a contract or purchase order? There's a big
Purchase order was authorized by you on stamp June 28, 2017. And there's the check that was cut and received.
And I was very upfront about that probably a year ago, that we spent.
That's not my point, Mayor. My point is, 2 weeks ago, I asked you, did you sign a contract?
And I did. You're seeing a purchase order. That's not a contract.
You said no.
And I stand by that now.
This professional services agreement with Lawson Associates has your name and signature, print, and title related.
Let me see it. I don't. It's additionally confusing is that I didn't spend $30,000 from city money. So I don't.
Do you remember when we authorized $15,000 by IDB to be involved?
I do.
They never spent a penny.
Not yet. We haven't asked, they have not been asked.
There's a purchase order of June 28 with their signature for feasibility study for an ice hockey rink, $13,750.
Now, and let me back up a little bit. You've got an agreement that is
I have.
8 sentences long here.
Well,
Let me see that.
my whole point, you can get these in your own finance department. That's where I found it. I asked for it.
Could I look at them now?
When you told me you did not sign a contract, and I walked and I asked for information, and I given one, it makes me very leery. And what's even more concerning, and unless I'm wrong to the city attorney, please correct me, but whenever a contract is signed by the CEO of this city, does not the city attorney's signature go on there that he has examined it? And reviewed the property? And on that piece of paper that you've got that I'd like to have back, Mr. Bradley's name's not on it. And I guess my leading question is, from the time that this was in June 28th of 17 till October 9th of 17, and then a check was cut for $13,750 the next day.
If you would like to pass it down so I can take a look at it a little bit closer. And again, if it's a contract, it goes to John Bradley's office. This is an agreement that, I mean, it's an agreement.
Why is the date on there, James, excuse me, Mayor?
Mr. Mike?
Why is the date on there October 9th and the initial start was June 28th? But yet money was spent between those 2 days.
Because I had money in my budget to spend toward that. Y'all had already agreed to let me have that money in my budget to spend toward
Then
it.
why didn't you tell me 2 weeks ago that yes, you had a contract?
Because this is an agreement, this is not a contract. I approved a contract today, it was about 18 pages long. That's a contract. This is 8 sentences without, excuse me.
I didn't bring the rest of it. That is the front page of it. I didn't bring all the whereas and where to's and so on. So,
Anything else?
yeah, we got to stuff that.
August 1st.
Thank you, Mayor. First thing I want to say is that I hope that you don't forget it was my email to you just a few few days ago when I said that you had promised to me that you would be open, inclusive, transparent. It was not in the meeting, it was in a private conversation. Because when we first discussed this feasibility study, and I raised questions about why we had already selected the company that was going to do it without it going to bid, when I asked about the cost and who the other people were that were going to be contributing to this, and we don't know, and we really should know if someone's contributing towards a city project if they have private interest, because we want to make sure there's not going to end up being a conflict of interest down the road. It was at that meeting that turned off my microphone and wouldn't let me comment until this board voted unanimously, minus your vote, to let me continue my comments. Following that meeting, a member of your group who's been working with the finance team, worked with the hockey group, former executive with the Predators, a longtime friend of mine, a person that I've worked on a lot of community projects with, asked for the two of us to meet, and we met. And at that meeting, you said that you apologized. You would apologize at the next board meeting. You did. You apologized to Mr. Stamper. And that you would be more inclusive and be involved with this information. This is after I had to go to a meeting at City Hall because I was being invited by other partners you were bringing to the table because they felt like they needed another voice in the city. And even since then, I've had to come to another meeting at City Hall as this board's representative to the Industrial Development Board when there was issues being discussed with members of the Industrial Development Board. And so I've been quiet and I've just tried to see what I can do. And so last week, I reached out, had a conversation with the president of Lowe's Associates. Lowe's Associates is the company that's been contracted and city check, at least one city check has been cut to pay them. And I think that was also probably one of Mr. Frost's questions, if we paid any money towards that. The city check has been cut to pay them for this work. And I spoke with the president of Lowe's Associates. He knew I was a city official, and I'm an alderman and liaison to the Industrial Development Board, and I asked very simply, didn't have to twist any arms or anything. I said, could I have a copy of the study, your draft? And he said, well, several weeks ago, we sent a draft over to the gentleman who's working on your private group. They've sent some edits, and we fixed that. We've had that done for a couple of weeks. He didn't say exactly how long, but the implication idea I got was it was more than a few days, but it hasn't been more than a few weeks. And I said, could you send me a copy of that in the notes? And he said, yes, he could. No problem at all. 2 days later, I didn't have the information, so I left him a voicemail at the end of the day. The next morning, gave him a couple hours to call me back. And I called him, left him another message and said, just wanted to make sure you had the right email address and I get the information. And his email to me is that your request was that no one see the report until this private group you're working with approves it. And that even after they've made their second edits to it at the request of this private group, the group has asked for more edits and changes. And that they may not approve it until those edits are completed. Which to me, and that he said if I wanted it, that I would need to go to you and ask for it. And it was on that email when I told the man, and copied you, he copied you as well, that I was surprised because you had promised to be transparent, and that I would think that it would be appropriate for a city official to see information that the city had paid for. And now it raises the question of me of why can't we see this study? And now I even wonder, what's the value of the study? Because whether it's the IDB or a private business or the city of Hendersonville that's paying a professional to do what is supposed to be an unbiased and impartial study to tell us the feasibility of a potential investment of what I've heard from knowing watching you on the news could be a $12 million public investment. What's the value of that report if it's going to pass through an advocacy group at least twice already for edits before it comes to us? That's my response to my point of personal privilege when you said you didn't know who wrote those words. Those are words that I will admit. It's been talked about trust, and I will let you know this is my 18th year on this board. So I guess that makes, this is my 10th seated board with which I've served. And I will tell you, I've been a little surprised. I've been more than a little surprised. And I've had conversations with members of this board, and we've just been having good personal conversations. It's a house that they're surprised that this board is working better. Even with disagreements on policy, but working together in an environment of trust and personal satisfaction. We can be friends and be friendly when we disagree. And that is something that at a level I have not experienced in my entire time. It's unfortunate I have to say this. I'm going to try to choose my words very carefully. I'm not going to say exactly what I want to say. I'm just going to lay the facts out there. There were two things that you said in your presentation about the Sounds and the Tennessee Titans. I was not on this board when the Titans came to town, but was very close and carried those conversations with then Mayor Thompson. You were not on the board either, but I think you had a very good relationship with Mayor Thompson as well. The reason why the Titans, who were looking to have their facility in Hendersonville, did not locate in Hendersonville was not because we did not have a sports authority. They did not locate in Hendersonville or Williamson County or any of the other places that were courting them because the practical politics of the situation was they had a referendum, they had a Metro Council with which they had to deal, and they said quite frankly that if they were going to make any investment into a large facility, which could also lead to where their players and their staff live, that the Metro Council was going to require them to put that in Davidson County. That's secondhand information that I have, but it's directly from the mayor at the time, and it's directly from published news reports. On good news, we did get Benny Machine, which was a business that was relocated. They used to be where the Titan Stadium is now, and they had been a long-time good industrial employer in the city of Hendersonville. The next thing I want to say, and I can tell you from direct knowledge, I was the person who initiated the idea of working with the Nashville Sounds. My goal was if they were not going to be in Davidson County, I wanted them in Sumner County. I was there when we started the conversations with them. I met with their general manager. I met with the general manager's consultant. I had perhaps 3 months of private conversations with them as we slowly brought other players into this group. I was also at the table with them when I said, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to withdraw our offer. We had a wonderful ballpark, $40 million facility that would have been on the lake with a marina. But I realized at some point that they wanted the city of Hendersonville to take all the risk for that investment. And we withdrew that offer. At no time was the absence or the failure to approve a sports authority a factor in that decision. We can talk about other things, and I guess it's now we're going to talk about other things. Let's talk about this. We've had a year ago, we've had discussion, we've heard discussed publicly before the news, and in many cases we have to get most of our information secondhand from something that's presented to a community group or something that's in the newspaper or something that's on the news. Literally, I know more about what's on the table from a news report than I do from information coming out of your office. We've heard that there's talk of no public funds, there's just not going to be a reason for the board to vote. There was time that was being discussed with the Industrial Development Board. If any member of the public here wants to know why we're so troubled about board appointments, and why a month ago we had a big discussion about how things were assigned and a Ward 4 appointment and things like this, the Ward 1 alderman did not even know that there was a vacancy in their ward on the Industrial Development Board because a member had informed their office they were going to move. At the same time that those aldermen found out that there was a vacancy, they were also advised that you had had a person leave.
Alderman Sprouse, you need to stay on the topic, please.
This is the topic because
the topic is not about what I did on a Ward 1 appointment. The topic is whether or not we're going to create a sports authority.
We're going to talk a little bit about trust. And when we have a situation where aldermen are being blocked from talking to department heads, when department heads are being told not to talk to aldermen, that's why we have an issue of trust.
Alderman Sprouse, we are not talking about trust. We are talking about developing sports authority. Please stay on the topic.
The topic is the sports authority. We've heard, I'm confused, we've heard that the Sports Authority has nothing to do with the hockey facility. We've heard now, that just a few minutes ago, that if we aren't in favor of the Sports Authority, then we're not in favor of the hockey facility at the time to vote. Any member of this board can be in favor of an idea, of a concept, and want to know. Any member of this board may think the Sports Authority is a good idea, but they want to have information they need to make a decision. We hear, oh, we don't want to be one of those folks who 5 years or 20 years from now we wish we'd done something. I've been in the room when folks have said, I wish we hadn't done that, or I wish we'd do that. My request is going to be, and I had a very good conversation this week with a resident of Hendersonville, I won't use his name until we have a meeting, public meeting, who, I don't know anybody who could be a better expert in Middle Tennessee on the idea of sports authorities, sports council, ideas about tourism and how it can increase with sports facilities, all of the powers and different duties. And he lives in Hendersonville. Highly, highly successful career in Nashville, leading their sports council. He has offered to come and talk with us. He said a lot of people are asking him questions, but it's almost like we're not even having enough knowledge to know what questions to ask. I asked him if he came, if we brought this back to General Committee, and this was at General Committee last month, we had a 5-minute discussion there. If he would come to a special call meeting in General Committee, that I recognize, I told him there could be other aldermen there, it would be open, it's where we have a discussion, we don't have a debate. And in that way, we can ask any question we have of him, and we can learn from his 20 years of experience and literally billions of dollars in impact that they've had in Davidson County because of his efforts. He said he would be very happy to do that. He would be doing it as an individual and not doing it as a representative of his employer, but he said he would come as a resident of Hendersonville as anyone else would share that information. So my request and my motion is we send this back to General Committee until such time that we can schedule a special call meeting to meet his schedule. And my goal would be to have that within the next 6 weeks. And we have that conversation. And only after that conversation do I feel like this board can even be educated enough to where we can ask educated, important questions so we can make a proper decision. Not so we can say, oh, I wish we had done this, but also so we would not run the risk of saying, I wish we hadn't done this. And that's my motion.
We have a motion to commit this to the General Committee. And a second. Alderman Brown.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could, I'm going to withdraw my motion for just a moment. I know that there's at least one other person who would like to talk.
Alderman Brown, you want to withdraw your second?
I'll withdraw my second, but I still like to speak.
Alderman Brown, go ahead. Who's the next person wants to speak? Yes.
I want to go back to a remark that one of our guests made this evening. We talked about trust, and this is on the motion. I don't think we have a major trust issue. I think we have an informational issue, and we have a procedural issue that we as a board, or I, and Steve Brown, don't feel like I've had enough information, and I've had more information put on me tonight. I would tell you that I don't know really anything about ice hockey other than I like the Predators. I don't run back and forth to Nashville. I do like the sport. I'm not so sure that ice hockey should be in Hendersonville and or some other sports. We have a lot of lacrosse players. We have a lot of rugby players. We have a lot of that going on. I don't want, physically, obviously, I can't do very well at anything right now. So, I think it's a good idea to send this back to General Committee for a couple reasons. Here are my concerns. Here's what I'd like to see. I would like to see the study. For I really don't understand, and you use the word cart before the horse, and I agree. If we're going to spend money on a study for an ice hockey rink, then I need to see that study before I decide to do a sports authority, because the sports authority is about the ice hockey rink. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. probably a good thing. I don't want to start dealing with bringing ice hockey rinks up here and leasing and all that stuff. I don't have the time. This board doesn't have the time. City employees don't have the time. But I think that's something our citizens want. I heard that tonight. I've talked to several people in the last 12 days. I've been home for 12 days. This is my first venture out. I normally don't wear hats, but I can't see anything, so I asked for indulgence. But I would like to see the study, since we have spent money on that. The second thing I would like to see is we talked a couple weeks ago about how this board was going to be appointed. The people that I've talked to said, oh, BOMA's going to appoint the board. I told them that that's not in writing anywhere, that hadn't been agreed to. It just says we're going to have 7 board members. The other thing I'd like to see General Committee do is structure a mechanism so we can make sure that we absolutely got the right people on the Sports Authority board. Do we need a facilities person? Yes, maybe. Do we need a commercial land person? Yes, maybe. Do we need somebody who knows something about big dollar bills? Yes, maybe. Do we need somebody that has been around the sounds and the cribs that's in our community? We have several of those people. I'd like to see the General Committee set out a mechanism with some skill sets for those board members. So when I do vote on this, which I probably will vote in favor of it, that I feel really good about the Sports Authority Board. So, and I have nothing against any of those people on this list tonight. Some of you don't know there's a list, but there is a list. Some of them I know. But I just think that we need a mechanism. And right now, our mechanism's not good. So those two things I would like to see. And so I guess we're waiting on somebody else to speak, so I'm good. Thank you.
The thing about it is, I'll tell you, I'm actually for the Sports Authority. I don't play hockey or ice hockey. I can water ski, and I can play golf and do those kind of things, and I love to watch it on TV. And I'd like to go see down in Nashville. But so I think probably with this, it does need to go back, because there's obviously some serious issues here with the Sports Authority. But I think it's a good idea to have one for Hendersonville. We're big enough. We're like the 11th largest city in the state. I think there's only 2 other sports authorities, one in Davidson County, there's in Shelby, or excuse me, Shelby County. I apologize. There's a big difference between Shelby County and Shelby, trust me. But yeah, thank you. But here's my point that I want to make to the board tonight. I have some serious reservations because besides Scott, I think, well, I don't know if Scott has, but I know he's close to me. I've served under every mayor since 1986 in the city of Hendersonville. And it's been my honor. Trust me, it's just been, and we've come a long way since 1986 and 85 in those days. But I got to tell you, it concerns me when we have the executive branch of this board saying that they have not signed a contract to another alderman on a public board, and there's been one signed, and I have a real serious question with that, because I can tell you right now, I've been through this with another mayor in this town, and we basically had to almost take him to court about issues such as what we're going through now on this board. So I'm very concerned we're going down the board, not the board of aldermen, but the board of mayor and aldermen. We're going down the road that I've been down, and I tell you what, it didn't end up too happy. It was a terrible thing to bring the city through. So I don't know. All I would ask is that we have more transparency on what's going on in the mayor's office. And this is not a slight to you, Jamie, at all, and I want you to know that. But you've got to, you're just elected, and I understand that. You've been in about 2 years now. And there are some things that we all learn. I'm learning every day, and I've been in office for, 30 years, and I'm learning every day, still. But you've got to understand, you've got to keep this board informed of what's going on. You've got not to send out memos or emails to let department heads say that you cannot speak to an alderman. That's absurd. That's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. And I'm going to continue to speak to department heads, and I encourage every alderman to speak to your department head, because that's how we get things done in this town. It's not a one-pony town. This is a board of 13 members, and we all work for a common good. So I would just ask you in the future to not do those kind of things. Just come and tell us. I mean, it's not a big deal. And then in closing, I do want to say this. It is a big deal, actually. I'm trying to candy coat it because we have an audience out here. We can air, the board can air our dirty laundry up at City Hall. But I guess they need to know, the constituency in Hendersonville need to know this is going on. But when you enter into a contract, regardless of what it is, the board should be notified of what you're doing. And that contract should not go to a bunch of folks that I know practically, and I think everybody on this board knows all these people. That contract or that study should not be changed until we see the actual study. So I would just encourage you to change your policy. I don't see anything wrong at this point with the board's policy because we didn't know anything about it until my colleague from Ward 5, Alderman Frost, brought it up tonight. And that's all I've got to say at this point on this particular issue, but I am for the authority. I think it's a good thing, but I do think it needs, obviously now, it needs to go back to the general committee. And then here's the thing about that, and I will say this in closing, and I'm going to be quiet, because I told John Bradley tonight, I said, I'm doing the city of Hendersonville a favor. We've got 2 mics tonight, so I'm not saying anything. So I will say this. Just because an alderman wants to put this back in committee and do the right thing, that doesn't mean that he's not for hockey. It doesn't mean he's not for any sport. We're just here to do the right thing and to make sure that we've done the proper thing. And I don't know of any other alderman that could respond to me differently. I think we all agree with that. So that's all I can say about that. And I don't know if any other alderman has anything to say, or I'll yield or get him recognized. Thank you. Alderman Gilliam.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think there's any person up here that's not for the Sports Authority in the correct form at the correct time. And I also think, for our city at this time, we have the proper board with the proper people up here to get it done right. From the mayor all the way to the alderman, to the city attorney, to the finance department, to the fire chief. We have the right people in place to do this and do it right. I want to echo the fact that I personally would like to see, I don't care if it's a rough draft feasibility study, I'd like to see that. I would also, I do understand too that probably the Sports Authority could help with the feasibility study. This is uncharted territory. It's ironic we've got some things on here tonight that's very similar in the way we're doing things because it's uncharted territory. I do think, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, you went a long way in my book doing what you did tonight, taking responsibility for some things that may have been cart before the horse, and I appreciate that too. I mean, there's all kinds of sides here. But the bottom line is, we got to get it right, and we got to not send a signal to the, and this is just Andy Gilley talking. If we have hockey, I want the Predators involved in it. And I don't want to send a signal to them that we're a bunch of screwballs that don't know what we're doing. So therefore, we need to get it right. And we need to get it right quickly. I voted for it in the general committee. I think it's the right thing to do. I do think it's 20 years overdue. No matter what we missed out on or didn't miss out on, that doesn't matter. It needs to be done right, and I do think we need to set it up the correct way and sooner rather than later. I am for sending it back to the general committee, a special called general committee meeting, but no to 6 weeks. It needs to be as quickly as possible. As quickly as we can get the man that is remained nameless, that has brought billions of dollars to Nashville, that lives in Ballantrae, together. I mean, you might as well say his name early. And anybody else. I mean, I'll meet tomorrow. But I don't want to put a within 6 weeks on. You didn't mean to do that on purpose. I think we all agree we got to do this and we got to get it right. And nobody probably knows the exact right way to do it, but it's got to be done. Because we cannot miss out on the opportunity to give a large portion of our community something that is needed that could also bring in tax revenue in terms of restaurants, hotels, and other things. Thank you.
Alderman Waters.
Yes, I can. One, two, three, test. Thank you, Mayor. I'm really concerned and confused. I do want a sports authority to come to this town. Echo my colleagues for what you just said. Alderman Brown hit it right on the head. So with that being said, here's what concerns me. One of the gentlemen spoke earlier about how he knew, or who told him, about friction amongst this board. I don't know who told him that. But right now, in the last 10 minutes, I understand what he's saying. If you're going to clean and wash out dirty laundry, this is not the place to do it, okay, colleagues? This should be brought to these people didn't come out here to hear two aldermen talk about things that they don't care. We need to discuss it in an executive meeting. That's between us. That's why they put us here. For you people to spread this stuff about how bitter we are one another. I love you all. We don't agree on everything. That's what we're here for. We disagree, but we agree on things. But I wish that you would quit washing the dirty laundry between here and what we're here for. We're debating the sports authority. Keep it to the sports authority and quit bad-mouthing the mayor of the aldermen. I don't want to hear it. Thank you, Mayor.
I appreciate that. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and withdraw this. Alderman Charlie.
I'm sorry, I just have a simple question. On the report that has been created by Lowe's and Associates.
Yes, it's right up here.
Sorry. What is the soonest we can receive a copy of that feasibility study?
I don't know.
Okay. Will it be their first feasibility study, or is it going to be a redacted form of what the sports?
No feasibility study has been finished.
So it's not finished? Okay, thank you.
Alderman Strauss.
Point of clarification, at least one draft has been presented to the committee, has been returned for comments, for editing.
No, that's up to you, ma'am.
I'm sorry, if I had better phone service here, I'd pull up the email, but I'll be happy to provide that to the rest of the board tonight. Before I make my motion, just to address previous comments, this is not dirty laundry, this is public business. To defend the alderman who said, I asked a question 2 weeks ago, and the answer you gave me was not true, and I have documents and I'd like to talk to you about it, is not conducting very dirty laundry. It's about public accountability for all of the things that we do. And the comments that I just said, if someone's going to use my words, I'm going to be, as a point of personal privilege, I'm going to own those words and give the context in which they were provided. And if false information is presented in this public meeting, it's not me airing dirty laundry to say, I'm sorry, but I have first-hand information to know that this is not true. That's me doing my responsibility, because if I was ever in this meeting and someone said something that was not true, and it affected public policy, particularly if it affected public policy, and I didn't say something, then I'm derelict in my responsibility. I would like to make my motion again that we send this issue to General Committee. Mr. Gilly, as a member of that committee, you know I'm very diligent as scheduling those as quickly as possible. My goal would be to have something next week and as early as we could give proper notice. We may have to pass if we go into the next week because we just said a lot of people are going to be out of town. But as soon as this gentleman's schedule can allow, if we can have this meeting next week, it'll be, I will post notice this week and we'll have it next week.
We have a motion and a second. I'd like to speak on that first. I am fine with withdrawing this, and any committee can look at it, any chairman can look at it. I'm absolutely fine with withdrawing it, and we won't have restrictions on it, just goes to the general committee.
I'll be happy to withdraw the motion and I'll still call
it. Okay, and this is, I am the sponsor of this, so it does need a second. I'm going to do that this time. Next on the agenda is second reading ordinance 2018-12. This is ordinance appropriating funds to purchase a portion of property known as the Baby Farm. Alderman Brown. Second. We have a motion and a second. Alderman Brown. Bring the microphone down next, right? Raise your hand. Alderman Gilly, next.
Usually they have to go first because he speaks better than I do, but I'm not going to tonight.
See if you can speak up actually a lot.
All right, I'll do my best. I'll be loud. We have been in a process as a city, and Mr. Burville, wherever he's at, read that process pretty well a while ago, how the timeline of things that happened in the conversations about the Baby Farm, whether the city should purchase it, whether the city could purchase it. Then a group was formed because we couldn't write a check out of the general fund to purchase it. We still can't write a check out of the general fund to purchase it. We could, but payroll would not be met at the time. So we'd have some upset people. But our general fund is not the most lucrative. It is low. It's been low for years. We made a commitment that we'll get that up this year, and I think that will probably happen at budget time. We've all heard that talk. And I don't want to talk a lot tonight. I think everybody's mind in this room is either for or against, but I think as a whole, everybody in here would say that saving the Beatty Farm, keeping that as green space, making it a park is a good thing. I think the debate is the financial situation and how we go about it. And what part does Friends of Indian Lake Peninsula play? And I think we pretty well discussed that 2 weeks ago. The city's went back to our original offer, $3 million to do that. The Friends of Indian Lake Peninsula have now started turning their pledge money into cash so they can purchase that top piece. And I said this 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to say it again. We're not going to have a perfect marriage here yet. Most of you have been married and know that it takes a little bit of time. But we will marry the upper land and the lower land, the Friends of Indian Lake Peninsula with the city of Hendersonville. We will work through those issues of exactly what that's going to look like and what that's going to feel like. But it will be good for every single solitary person in this city. It's not just an Indian Lake Peninsula park. Now, we can call it that. I think they spent a whole lot of time searching for names that were catchy. Friends of Indian Lake Peninsula, Beatty Farm, Sadie. So there's where we're at. We've got a piece of ground that everybody in this city can use. I've heard Ken Burville talk about BMX bike trails. I cannot wait to see him on a BMX bicycle, period. At his house or on the trail. But I can vision his grandkids, his great-grandkids, mine riding BMX bicycles. I can envision my wife, who wrote a check, put our skin in the game, and I gave that to Kim Peel tonight, because she wants a place to walk. Well, that means I'm probably one of these days going to be walking again with it. Right now I can't do that. But I can see a lot of good things. Somebody else spoke about all the value, and I don't know where my notes are, of all the things that could be done on that piece of property, besides a couple hundred houses. Now, we've got a lot of houses. Yeah, there could be an argument that we want to buy this piece of property to prevent more housing. Now, I don't think that's true. I think maybe it started out that way, in my mind, but I went around the curve and believe that this is absolutely one of the best things that I could leave as a legacy, as an alderman in this city, is to purchase that piece of land. I'm going to vote yes for it, and I'm really not going to talk anymore. I think there's points here that need to be figured out, down payment, deadlines, contracts, things like that. That's above my purview. Mr. Gilly may have it figured out, and I think he's up next. I don't know. So we've got plenty of smarts along this board to figure that out. But I do absolutely. I want to congratulate the Friends of Indian Lake Peninsula for the work that they put together. I've been truly and absolutely amazed of a citizens group that has worked that hard. I really have. And I think everybody along this board has. I'm not just saying that because I might want you to vote again because you voted for me before. Because you actually have worked that hard. So, there you go. You have my vote. You know that. I would urge my colleagues along the board, leave that legacy. Leave that legacy. That you helped leave that green space for that 78-acre park. Thank you.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Alderman Gilley.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to try not to be redundant and try to be as brief as possible. I do have a couple of main points, and I'm going to try to shut up myself for tonight, too, on this, if possible. But I do have a couple of notes. Mr. Stocks said about Thomas Jefferson. I have a statue of Thomas Jefferson on my desk upstairs in room 228, if anybody wants to see it after we're done here. But, whether you vote for or against this tonight, if you vote for it and it passes, your name's going to go on a plaque at a nice park. If you vote against it and it passes, your name's probably going to go on a plaque at a nice park. If you vote for it and it doesn't pass, then you're going to do the best you can to make whatever goes on that piece of property the best thing for our city. Same as if you vote against it and it doesn't pass. I have that, no doubt. Have respect for both sides. Have respect for everybody sitting out there that is for it or against it. No doubt about it. God has a way of putting us in funny places and laughing when we tell him what we're going to do. And then he just laughs at you and shows you what he's going to do. I had no idea 2 years ago I'd be sitting up here. I did know in my heart I was ready to serve our city in a greater capacity. I thought it was in a different area. It turned out to be right here. And I'm going to tell you this, if I wasn't up here, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation because I made the first phone call. Not trying to take credit for that. I just kind of flippantly said, would y'all be interested in selling it to the city? Sure. Well, all right, here we are. It's time tonight. This is about opportunity. We got cities all around us taking advantage of this opportunities like this. You got the city of Murfreesboro 2 years ago just spent $5 million to acquire parkland. You got Nashville's new mayor today saying they're going to bulldoze down the old Greer Stadium to restore Fort Negley into the park that it used to be. That's about $1 million cost, and they bought land all over the place. If you go to Gallatin, talk to David Brown, the person there, he will tell you they're trying to find land to acquire, and their cost is about $40,000 an acre that they're looking at. That's what they're looking at. It's a fact. Call them and ask them. It's just something that people are doing. It's something that it leaves a legacy, but it also serves multiple purposes. Multiple purposes. Is Mr. Lamar still here? God bless his soul for staying here. Are you still here?
Yes, sir.
Our interim parks director. Can they come answer a question, if you don't mind? How about 3 questions? Come out of the shadows like Batman. Back from the dead, Mr. Lamar, interim parks director.
Thank you, Mr. Gilly. Thank you for the positive comments.
I just want to, a couple things, if you don't have to answer them, I guess, but if you can help us out, that'd be great. There's been talk about the difference between passive and active. I'd like, as a parks director's point of view, if you could give us your perspective on how you see that in our city, I guess.
Briefly, we've discussed it, some of the people have tonight. I sent an email to the mayor today. I think all of them got it. Pretty much Salisbury Park is pretty passive. Walking trails, picnic shelters, disc golf, fishing, family picnics, reunions, weddings, things like that. Outdoor basketball court for dad and kids to shoot at, things like that. Active, Drake's Creek. Packed, tournaments, events, traffic, it's crazy. So, with all the sports. So, basically, it's leisure type activities for passive usage is what this would be used for, and a great usage for it.
I guess one of the things that makes Hendersonville unique among any municipality in this state, and people probably don't even realize that, is the school park agreement. Are we still the only one that has that you know of?
We're one of two in the state of Tennessee.
The school park agreement, where our school sports teams use city fields and things, and the city uses school buildings. It's one of a kind. And I'm assuming that that could apply to things like FFA and school clubs, not just sports teams.
Absolutely. We let ROTC use it, we let the driver training use it, we let the cross-country kids use it. Every activity, whether it's DECA, doing a service project in the park, whatever club, group, sporting in the school system, whether it's middle school, high school, elementary school, we work with the schools all the way around Hendersonville.
And then the last thing, and I'll let you go, I'm sure somebody else asked you a question, but I've heard the comment, we're just going to buy it and let it sit there in a hayfield and just drive by and wave at it and look pretty. And you know, that might happen for a while. I mean, and this is where I'd like for you to weigh in, I guess. Give us, if you can, give us the background on the last piece of land that the city actually bought. Not that it was donated as part of an agreement with a developer, but that the city actually bought. A volunteer park. If you could kind of tell us where we went with it, what we did with it after we bought it, how long we let it sit. I'll let you, the historian of this. So.
Basically, when Mayor Fuqua was here, he had the foresight when we got a call from Dr. Oliver about that property, that 88 acres over off of Drake's Creek Road, and he said, would he like to sell it? The estate would like to sell it to the city. Would we be interested? And of course, Mayor Fuqua and I were definitely interested. We were on board from day one. 88 acres, $10,000 an acre, $880,000 steel. We sat on it for 10, 12 years before we did anything because of financial reasons, the city and budgets and things like that. But we knew at some point in time we had some master plans to build things out there. And even since that time, police chief was here, we didn't even have a horse barn, it wasn't even thought of back then. But now as it's come to fruition, the horse barn and the horses are a great asset in the park. That's going to be on that new property. So we've kind of changed our format a little bit along the way. But that came to fruition just because of the alderman and the mayor at the time thought we need to buy property. The property is not going to be around 20, 30 years from now. If we don't get that piece of property now and spend the $1 million to get that property and hold on to it until we can afford to build a park out there, whatever we happen to be as this board, the Parks Board, decide it's going to be, then it would be houses that would be developed. So I'm not against it at all. In fact, I'm a real advocate of parkland and space, green space, as you know. And it's not going to be any more in the city of Hendersonville. It's going to be what it is. And so whatever land that we can get, now it may sit there for 5 years. We may just put trails on the first year. The second year we may get some grants from LPRF. There may be some things we can do. But we realize it's not going to be developed right away. I mean, we've still got 2 sections of volunteer park out there to develop. So it's not going to develop overnight, but if we don't get the land now, then it's going to be, we may be sorry down there.
You should feel that way as an interim parks director. You want all the land you can get, right? Now, one more thing and I'll let you go.
You said 3.
I got 4. I got 4. You're on overtime anyway. So, part of the concern, there's been numerous questions, proposals, different things. I've been glad for people to try to make The biggest thing for me is the price wasn't going to change. We could do it different ways. There might not be a perfect way to do it. The price was not going to change. We could borrow it. We could finance it through the owner. We can bond it. We can get a down payment from this group, that group. There's multiple ways. There's been proposals made to the board of the Friends of Indian Lake. And I'm not on that board. I can't speak for them, but I can tell you personally, here's why I think the cleanest way is to have the city buy one piece and the Friends of Indian Lake buy the other piece. In my personal opinion, I don't like the mix of funds. I don't like the mix of funds because then you start getting into, well, we want to do this because we pay this, or we deserve our say on this, or who really owns? Do we co-own a piece of land with a 501c3? I don't like that. Me personally, I do not like that. I can't speak for that board. I'll let them speak if they want to speak about that somewhere. And here's why. The word trust has been thrown around a lot tonight. And again, I think we're on a road to building trust, not only amongst this board, but between the board and the citizens. But here's why I would, when the city bought Volunteer Park, and you're going to have to explain this better than I can because I was just a little kid playing Little League Baseball at the time still, or maybe I was in college. Tell us what happened to that land. Tell us what happened from the time the city paid $10,000 an acre for 80 acres. If you can, please. Sir.
Is that an age joke, too? I mean, just because I'm retired and come back?
No.
When we bought the 88 acres, again, it was sitting there undeveloped. The school board came to us, approached the city of Hendersonville and said, listen, school growth, the growth of Hendersonville is going north. They made a proposal to the city of Hendersonville to buy 35 acres of that for, they originally wanted to buy 20 or 22 acres for middle school. And then as the discussion ensued, realized that the city was growing faster than anybody realized, and they wanted to buy enough property to build Knox Goss and Burris Elementary, the two schools that weren't even thought of back then. So we sold the acreage to them, 35 acres of back acreage, and in that process we talked to them about the school park agreement. We use their school facilities, they use the front park when we develop it for their facilities. The $1 million, $1.2 million that we got for the 35 acres of school went back in the general fund. Part of it went for a capital project, part of it went back to the Parks Department, $440,000 for park improvements. And so we did put some lights up in Mill Fields. We built playground equipment. We had $440,000 over about a 3-year period. We had a project list that we had prioritized and so on. So again, this is the way that we built that park. Was probably the way we're going to build the next one, and we'll continue to build a volunteer park out there in Arrowhead.
That point brings me to my main point with co-mingling funds. You think we got a full room tonight? You let these people put down a $500,000 deposit on a piece of land, and then us turn around in 3 years and sell half of it. Then you're really going to have a full room, and that could happen with 7 votes. If we want to buy the bottom, and in 4, 5, 6, 7 years, 7 votes say that we need to turn around and sell it, I probably won't be up here then, but I'll let those people deal with that then. Fine with it. And I think the citizens understand that too. If the city buys the bottom, they would love to have input on what could go there from the community. And I hope that it would forever remain a passive park. But in reality, as Mr. Bradley famously always says, 7 votes can do anything.
Let me make one comment. In the inception of the volunteer park, the residents over there didn't want any lights. They didn't want 100-foot light poles, shining in their bedrooms and things like that. And we told them initially there wouldn't be lights for 10 to 15 years. Well, we're at that 15-year window, and there may be lights down the road for those ball fields. But they make the lights such now that they got shields on them, they don't shine in the neighborhoods and things like that. So, we may put lights up there, which wasn't our original agreement, but now that the community and the recreation community needs more facilities for the kids, and we got 1,500, 1,800 kids playing soccer. If we don't have lights out there, we don't have enough practice time, game time, and so on. So, with that being said, the the philosophy may change over the next 15 years with what's passive, what's active, just because of the demands on the community and the demands of this board.
On we go.
That's all from Mr. Mark right now. I got one more point I'd like to make, and I would like to, if the board is okay with it, just suspend the rules very briefly. We're not here for emotional pleas or anything. I do want Mr. Gentleman to give an update on where they are with donations, because I know that's been one of the major concerns, is turning pledges into cash. If you could give donations and any other board actions that you all have taken at this time, I would make a motion to suspend the rules for Mr. Gentleman.
Motion to suspend the rules in a second. Any objection? Glenn, please come up here and just speak to this one question, please. You don't have a microphone, do you? Alderman Gilly.
Well, I have two questions. I guess the first one would be, Mr. Gentleman, if you could give us an update on where you are as far as money collected, cash in hand, check in hand, whatever you want to call it, over the last, I guess it's now, what, 10 days since you started?
Exactly, yes. You wanted an update on the activities as well?
That's my next question.
Yes, and that first.
You can, if you want to do that first, I'm fine with it. Your world here, I'll say.
Well, thank you for that. And what I wanted to say tonight was, and what we just went through a few minutes ago, the struggles reinforcing how hard your job is. So thanks for having us and listening. So we were here 2 weeks ago, and a lot of you had questions, and some folks feel like we haven't moved quickly enough. So what I'd like to do is just kind of quickly go through some bullet points on things we have.
Seriously, it's going to have to be quick.
On things we have done. And so one of the first things, there was a question last time about passive park. And we had not done a good enough job, I think, of explaining that. Because one reason was, as we heard, we wanted to engage the community in deciding that. But hopefully between Jeff and our parks director, we have a better feel for that today. The next question we had was, we were asked for a long list of questions around how we were going to convert the pledges to cash, the timeline, expectations, backup plan for returning funds, and tax considerations. And I think we've answered all of those questions in probably multiple times. So if not, I'm assuming you can ask me questions right now about that. We provided a summary of the pledges. You wanted to see how many we had, how big and how small the range. We didn't turn over any names or addresses because that's all highly confidential. So hopefully that satisfied the need that you had as well. Then there was a concern about, one of you said, hey, I'm a businessman, and it was this question of wants versus needs. And I understand that, I've run businesses, and you have to do that. But one of the other aldermen, kind of in rebuttal last time, said, using the mayor's own numbers.
Len,
yes.
I'm just not going to let you rebut Alderman. If you can answer the question.
I am. The point there was that what we did was address some of the concerns about the economics of the whole situation. All right? And then the last one, you asked about maintenance costs, and there was a concern that we heard 2 weeks ago, $200,000 a year. We heard someone say she was an expert. It's $150,000. I spoke with our interim parks director today. He says Saunders Ferry Park costs about $40,000 to $50,000 a year to maintain 110 acres. So hopefully we've addressed that question. If not, please speak up. And the last one was around what Andy talked about, was the 11th hour possible change in plans. And we debated that, we talked about that, and we said we couldn't do that for the reasons that Andy said. So those are the things we accomplished. The punchline is we were asked about skin in the game. So we have had 10 days to put together the checks, to gather the checks. And I'm here to announce today that these people here, and others not here, have given us checks in hand for $656,500. Andy, if I could just add one more point to that, we still have about 300,000 in pledges that we haven't got, pledgers that we have not yet turned in. We haven't had time to get all of that, but we know our pledges are going to come through. So 656,500.
Thank you.
Let's stay there. We may have some other questions.